Hello everybody, I am Simon Mulligan and I play the piano, and I'm going to be taking you through each and every one of the 8 grades of music for piano as set by the Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music, ABRSM. Here we are with grade 1, and I'm going to begin with Group A, piece number 1. It's a work by one of Bach's youngest son, Johann Christian, and he wrote it when he was a little boy, and it says he was a little more than 10 years old. And it's a lovely little work, an aria in F. So I hope you could spot the differences between my first and second times of playing each section. That's an important thing in music. We want it to be, the composer asks for a repeat. That doesn't mean play exactly the same music the same way I did it the first time. It means put some variety into it and enjoy the music again. Change the dynamics, the loudness or softness of the music the second time you play the section. So you play it perhaps loud to begin with, and proud and confident, and then the second time can be a little more gentle, softer, more reflective, and that's the joy of good music, because sometimes you think, oh, I'll try this or I'll try that, and it takes you on a different pathway. Remember, as you would have seen in my technique talk, we want to keep our hands rounded and our fingers curved and over the keys as much as we can. It doesn't matter how small our hands are, we want to really have them forward over the key, never far back, so we're never grabbing, snatching at notes, particularly the black notes, which are way over there, and the white keys are obviously longer. So make sure your hands are comfortably over both black and white keys. I think they chose this piece because they want to hear how you can play trills. There's a trill, there's phrasing, there's some little wedges, they call them, staccatissimo notes, very short staccatos. Let's have a look at the first section. They tell you to play the trill in the first bar, the first measure, starting on the upper note. And as it's grade 1, they don't want you to play 1,000 notes in the 2 beats that the trill lasts for. So simply, the trill's written on the E. We're going to start it on the F. Remember to keep the trill nice and legato, and doesn't matter how small your hand is, we want to always use, as I talk a lot of, the circular motion. If we rock our hand like this applies to pianists of all standards. We want to rock the hand to create legato. That's a simple way. So rock the hand, like particularly from the wrist. Very smooth, very relaxed, always sitting up straight, shoulders back. So there's the trill. We want to show the distance between the notes. That sounds a bit strange, but imagine it's an aria, so imagine someone singing this. If you're singing a big interval, like at the end of the first line, bar 5. So bar, That's a big distance, and obviously if we have smaller hands, that's quite a jump of an octave. So take your time there. Don't think, I've got to play it strictly with a metronome. Yes, we practice with a metronome, but we are getting to the stage of eventually of polishing the piece. So when you come to have the notes comfortably under the fingers, take your time and enjoy the distance, if that makes sense. And likewise, in the second line, in the second part of the tune, we have the last bar of the second line. So don't be afraid to take your time, as a singer would. They don't just jump around. They take time to prepare the note in their voice. So here we go. Let's look at the left hand briefly. The left hand has lots of crotchets, quarter notes. There they are for the first few bars. Now we could play it like that, but that's not really that musical, just playing the notes. So how can we put some musicality into that? Well, if we bring that with the right hand and look at the music, decide where the music's going. And I think that the opening phrase I think it is going to the beginning of the third bar, i.e. there, musically. Da, da, da. So whereas we show that with our melody hand, with our right hand, lead towards the note, we want to do the same thing in the left hand. Don't let the left hand just think it can plod along. So you've got some big octaves in the left hand to leap to as well. Here comes another octave. Bom, bom. So all important, over the keys, take your time and phrase it to the end of the phrase. See, I took a little bit of time before I played that. So altogether we should have something like this. Okay, now there's no rule. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the Bach family on CD or MP3 playing their music, and people will talk for the end of time about how to phrase Bach and whether to put in more slurs, joining notes together, or to play it all separately, whether to use the pedal, because as you probably know, Bach didn't have a modern piano to play on. So, but his music is so fantastic, all the Bach family's music, that it sounds great on a piano. So that's why we play it. So personally, I think phrasing and musicality is more important than playing exactly what's written, and the editors of the associated board make some good suggestions of where to slur and where to have separate notes. So let's stick to what they've written down, although they do make a point of saying their suggestions are for guidance only. And just think very poised, very sort of almost imagine the people in Bach's time walking around in the clothing they wore then, and they didn't wear what we wear today, clothing that fits us more tightly. They wore great big dresses, huge ball gowns, the men as well. No, and we all dressed with more layers of clothing, and so it took that much more time, and everything was much more, I don't know, graceful. Probably a load of rubbish, but that's how I like to believe it. So there we are. We could, of course, play this many ways, but I want you to come up with an interpretation that is your own and musical. So the examiner is not going to say, oh, I hate the way he, she played those notes. They are open-eared and open to musicality and musical suggestions, and that's a sign of a good musician who, obviously they're looking for you to play correct notes and to observe and put as much musicality into the piece. That's the important word. And one last thing, the ending of a piece of music, always show that you've got to the end. A lot of Bach doesn't put many dynamics in his music, J.C. Bach as well. And it says here on the bottom line, bar 11, forte. So at the end of it, so which makes perfect sense. But how did I end it then? I just ended it very... That's not an ending. I think we want to do what I did earlier. So that was long, short, long in the left hand. Slow up towards the ending and bomb, bomb, bomb. Hope you enjoyed that.